Welcome to episode 66 of the 1% podcast. On today's show, we have Miss Amanda Nerstad. Amanda is a stage 4 lung cancer warrior with an incredible story. On episode 66, Amanda shares how she stopped worrying about cancer, began to notice winks from God, and she even teaches us how to have a conversation with our children regarding our cancer diagnosis. This is such a powerful and insightful message, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen to the show today. So here we go.
You have cancer. 3 words that change a life forever. We would like to offer another 3 words. Be an overcomer. Welcome to the 1% podcast, where our conversations with other cancer warriors, survivors, and caregivers allows us to give you that extra boost you need to face your challenge head on, live life from a new perspective, and forge a path that keeps you moving free and clear. Now, welcome your host and cancer survivor, Truett Taylor.
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there in the COVID world of 2020? What a year. I know everybody makes jokes about 2020 so far, but man, we are 5 months away, less than 5 months away, or 6 months away. It's August, right? August, September, October, November, December. Less than 5 months away from the end of the year. Man, what a crazy year so far. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe out there. Hope everyone is taking care of their health. And I hope everyone's spending more time with their family as well, too. More time with people you love. More time just reflecting on yourself, doing some self-care now. I know a lot of people have been stuck in the house a lot. You guys may have heard me say this before, but I run a contracting and design company, so we've actually seen our business skyrocket over this time. I think people are just sitting around the house, looking at all the things wrong with their home, decided to finally, go through a kitchen or a bath renovation or, just redo something in their house. And man, you can't even find lumber lots of times at Home Depot now, and a lot of the big suppliers out there because so many projects are going on. So hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's doing what they want to do during this time. Man, we got this crazy political year coming up as well too. November's just a couple of months away, and I think this is where it gets ugly with the politics side of everything. So, man, we just had a tough year so far, but I'm glad everyone's here. I'm glad everyone that's been connecting with me about the show, following up with me. I've seen some great news from different people. We had Miss Erica Newell on the show several months ago, and she was the lady who had sarcoma when she was a teenager, and it inspired her to become a nurse practitioner, and she actually worked at MD Anderson, where she was on the sarcoma ward as a patient. She ended up being a nurse practitioner on that ward, and I met her at MD Anderson several years ago at a conference. Just happened to meet her, and I'm so glad I did, and had her on the show. Well, she had her cancer return a little over a year ago, and she's been battling that, a lot of the ups and downs with cancer coming back and all those things. And I just read a message earlier today where she got her results back, and it's her first NED scan, so we're so happy for her. She's such an amazing human being, and just so vulnerable and showing everything through this time. I'm really happy to see that. We got some sad news last week. Miss Sarah DeBoard passed away. Sarah and I met. I saw her name on everything online, and I just knew I had to connect with her. And she was on the show during the early episodes, and she and I had the greatest conversation. And she said something to me that will always stick with me for the rest of my life. She's had over 175 chemo treatments, I think. And just a warrior going through the ups and downs. She told me stories of not even being able to walk and had 2 children at home. But she was just a superior advocate. Everybody loved her. Great overall human being, tons of energy considering the situation. So I'm so glad I had an opportunity to meet with her. But what she said to me was, she said, Truett, I don't know how long I have left to live, but I don't worry about how long I'm going to live. I worry about how deep and how wide I can live every day of my life. And I think about that. I think about all of our circumstances. Everyone listening to the show, if you've been affected by cancer, you've had that thought flash before your eyes, like, is this gonna, how long am I gonna live, or will I live, basically, with your disease, or if you know someone, you wonder about them and wonder if this is something will be terminal for them or something they can get past. And everyone hopes they can get past it and wants to live a long life. But, if we focus on having a meaningful life every day, I think that's one of those things where we just make the most of what we have, make the most of the time and the relationships that we have. And that makes me think of the situation going on now. People are spending more time in the house with their children, with their spouses, with their family members, and less time doing things that would steal our attention away from the personal relationships that we have in our life. So just ask everybody out there to take a mental inventory of the people around you, the relationships that you have, cherish some moments, live every day just like Sarah did, as deep and as wide as possible, and experience as most as you possibly can each day. All right, let's jump into my interview with Miss Amanda Nerstad. Amanda caught my attention the first time I met her. I went to an ALK positive lung cancer conference here in Atlanta several years ago, and I met her and Gina, and they did a phenomenal job. Like, the energy they have, they're so passionate about lung cancer and fundraising, because a lot of people have raised a significant amount of funds for lung cancer, which has helped improve the longevity and quality of life for lung cancer patients through discovering different drugs, different research out there. Amanda's a part of alkpositive.org. You guys go and check that out. I'll link that in the show notes to the podcast today. But alkpositive.org, it's just an amazing resource for everyone out there battling lung cancer. I've had several people on the show that are part of that group. It's such a wonderful family. So if you know of anyone that's experiencing lung cancer, or if you're a part of that, definitely go check them out. They've got some great resources and just tremendous amounts of positivity to share out there, and a lot of things that can help you get through what you're going through. So without any further delay, let's get into my interview with Miss Amanda Nerstad.
All right, everybody. Welcome Miss Amanda Nerstad to the 1% podcast. Amanda, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Coming all the way from Knoxville, Tennessee. So you have a little bit of a Southern accent, I can tell already. So this is going to be great. But you said your last name is Norwegian, right?
My husband is Norwegian, yes.
Okay. So you guys traveled over there or anything?
No, I mean, he grew up in Peoria, Illinois. But yes, they are proud to say they are Norwegian. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, man, I'm excited to have you on the show. I met you a couple of weeks ago, and just listening to you talk and just hearing your energy and your story and everything behind what you guys are doing for the ALK Positive movement. I knew I had to have you on the show, so I'm just so excited to have you here. Now, before we get started, I want to ask you something. So, you've been doing this for a little bit now. Tell us about this giant display that I saw with your photo on it. Was that in a hospital somewhere, or like on the outside of a building, or what was that?
I won the Genentech's Patient Connect Award. There were 6 patients that they chose with Genentech that are on different medicines, not necessarily cancer related, but I am the one that was chosen for Alecensa, which is my drug that I'm on. And they chose 6 of them, and they are our faces. We had a photo shoot last February in San Francisco at their headquarters. It was a really cool day. I got to take a tour of Genentech and a photo shoot. They treated my husband and I like VIPs. I got to speak to all the employees and tell about our journey. And then just recently, our photo was, I didn't really know exactly what it was going to look like. They said, oh, it's going to be a huge, almost like a billboard type of thing for the employees. It's the, connecting employees and patients and encouraging them. And it's a great program that we do every 2 years. And so she sent me a picture, and my face is on the building, and it'll be there for 2 years. So I'm really honored to be a part of it. And it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, do you ever just stand by it and say, hey, what do you guys think about this person right here?
Well, that's what my husband said. He said, oh, we have to go and see it now and go, up close.
And then where is it located?
In San Francisco at
Just,
Genentech headquarters. Yeah,
wow.
their headquarters are huge, and they have buildings all around. So I'm on one of the buildings, so it's funny.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thanks.
What better way to connect with people than to be that obvious out there and be able to share your story. I love that. So you've had an interesting journey so far in life, right?
I sure have.
Why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, and let's hear a little bit about your story and who you are.
Sure. I'm Amanda Nerstad. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I spent the past 15 years in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines. I met my husband in Chicago. We married in 2006, and we have two beautiful girls. Isabella is 10 and Greta is 7. We loved Chicago, but a job opportunity came up for Gary to move back down to Knoxville, where I'm from. So it's really been on our minds for a while, and we were praying about it to come back down to give our kids the opportunities that I had I wanted them to be close to the lake and the mountains and have the opportunities that I had growing up. So we took it, and we were really excited to move back. My parents live here. And we moved back, and 2 weeks after we moved here, I noticed this pressure on my chest. And, it's a new school, new house, new everything for us. I took our kids to school one morning, and my husband left to go out of town. He went to Salt Lake City for work. And I thought, well, it's just stress from our move. I need to take a jog, get back into exercising. I kind of fell off the wagon on my active classes and whatnot. So I took a jog, and I went up our hill, and I was jogging up the hill, and I was completely out of breath. And it was a different type of breath. I thought, oh my gosh, am I not used to these Tennessee hills anymore? Or, what happened? So, I thought maybe I had walking pneumonia. I wasn't really sure. So, the next morning I went to a walk-in clinic. I didn't even have a doctor yet. And I went into a walk-in clinic. I asked them if they had x-ray capabilities because I thought I had walking pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
So they did, and they took a chest x-ray, and the doctor came in and she said, I think you have a collapsed lung. She said, I want you to go to the emergency room right away. So I actually called my parents, and my dad came and got me, and he took me to a local emergency room. And they told me that there was a lot of fluid on my lung,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed to admit me, and they needed to drain the fluid and figure out why I had all the fluid. And my my mom had said that she was going to pick up the girls, not to worry. And at the time, I just didn't think much about it. I thought, well, I need to be home by dinner. And my husband was out of town, so they admitted me. I called Gary. He flew home. And they ended up draining my lung. It was called thoracentesis, and it was really uncomfortable. and they did lots of scans and tests and everything, and we didn't really have many answers. It was suggested that I had ovarian cancer. I had a cyst on my right ovary. And they actually scheduled an exploratory surgery 2 days after that, and said that they wanted to do an exploratory surgery with a possible hysterectomy. So they discharged us, and we left, and we left there with more questions than answers. We were just confused. It just didn't all add up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really uncomfortable with the pressure on my chest all of a sudden. And I knew I needed to get another lung drain. So we called around some family friends, and one of our family friend oncologists told us to go to a different hospital to see a specific doctor. And I knew, again, I had to have another lung drain. So we gathered up all of our paperwork, and we went to the next hospital, and I just told them, I need another lung drain, and I'm pretty sure I have ovarian cancer. So they admitted me, and we had lots of tests again, and then they ruled out ovarian cancer. They said that the cyst it was in normal range for a 39-year-old female, but they did see a spot on my upper left lobe of my lung, and they wanted to do an exploratory surgery called VATS. So we scheduled that for the next day, and I had the surgery. And while I was in surgery, my husband Gary was in the waiting room, and my brother had flown in, and some other family members. And the surgeon took my family into a different room, and that he said very stoically, I'm so sorry, but Amanda has stage 4 lung cancer. There's not much we can do. And then he just left the room. So you can only imagine the emotions and the the feelings that were going on in the room there. When I woke up, I was back in my hospital room, and I could tell everyone was very visibly upset. So I looked around, and the surgeon actually walked in, and I remember telling him, like, what's going on? What did you find out? Not thinking that it would be much at all. And he said, I'm very sorry, but we found you have a mass on your upper left lobe, your primary tumor, your lower left lobe, you have nodules on your chest and on your belly. You have stage 4 adenocarcinoma, non-small cell lung cancer. So I was shocked. I'm not a smoker. I'm an active, fit mom, and I was completely shocked that he would even say lung cancer in general, but also I was really concerned about how much time I had. I just kept saying, how much time do I have left? And he looked at me and he said, 2 weeks, maybe 9 months.
Wow.
So anywhere between 2 weeks and 9 months. And so it was really a hard time for sure. And I just remember thinking at the time, as silly as it sounds, I remember thinking, I put notes in my kids' lunch boxes every day. And so I just was so sad about who's going to put notes in my girls' lunch boxes, So that was a really rough time. But the oncologist came in and he said, I want to do some genetic testing, that this could completely change your treatment plan. It's really important. It's going to take about 10 to 14 days, but let's start there. So we did some genetic testing, and that was definitely the longest 10 to 14 days of my life waiting. Gary told me to stay off of Google, and we just prayed a lot, and we waited for those results. And then that's when my doctor called and said, I've got great news. You have a genetic mutation called ALK positive. And at the time I had no idea what that meant. And, he was like, you should be celebrating. This completely changes your treatment plan. You go on a targeted therapy pill versus traditional chemo. And this is really great news. So that's kind of how we got started on it. And then we also had made some calls while we were waiting for a second opinion at MD Anderson in Houston. So we had that opinion lined up, and so we went to MD Anderson and met with my doctor there, or a doctor at the time, and we had then found out that we were ALK positive, and so he told us to go on a targeted therapy pill called Xalkori, and that's what my local doctor here also recommended. So that's how we started on that pill. Yeah. So then getting on that pill, I started it, and it just made me so sick. I was nauseous all the time. I was going in for labs a lot. My neutrophils were off. My lab levels were just really off, and I had no energy. I hated my new normal, but at the same time, it was keeping me alive. So my scans were stable, which is a good thing. But I wasn't comfortable at all, and I just didn't like it. But at the same time, I was thankful for that medicine. About 6 months after I was on the medicine, I was in Houston. I was going to see, I go to see my doctor every 90 days at MD Anderson. And he was saying, he sat down and he's like, your scans are stable, it looks good, but how do you feel? How do you feel though? Quality of life is so important too. And I just said, well, I have no energy. I'm nauseous all the time. And I don't like my new normal. And I want to be this busy mom that I used to be with my kids. And it was just a challenging time. And he said, well, there's some new data out there called the J-Alex study. And it's saying that the second generation therapy pill called alectinib is, having these great results as a first line therapy. And I think we should consider it. It controls the blood-brain barrier, and also they're just having great results if you start on that first. But the tricky part is getting it approved with your insurance, because technically I didn't progress on Xalkori. It was keeping my scan stable, but how do we get on that? So my doctor in Houston really went to bat for me, and he had a peer-to-peer conversation with my insurance company, and he got it approved. So I started on that, and within days, I started feeling normal again. I started getting energy back, and my side effects were very minimal compared to anyone else, most cancer patients for sure. So nothing worth complaining about. But I finally found I feel normal again, and it was just a really great time of I can do this.
Right.
But
Wow.
but it's been great.
So it's been a journey. So how long has this journey been since you were diagnosed to where you are now?
So I was diagnosed September of 2016, and I started my medicine. I will have been on it almost 3 years in September.
3 years is a lot longer than 2 weeks and 9 months, huh?
Yes, definitely. We definitely thank God for our blessings every day.
Absolutely. So let's go back to some of those moments that you just mentioned throughout your story. So you said, your husband had found out before you did.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys had a chance to talk about hearing that news, I mean, I can only imagine, hearing that my wife had a terminal cancer and that was going to, she had 2 weeks and 9 months to live. What were his thoughts and feelings when you guys had a chance to actually talk about that and dig in and discuss that? What did he share with you about how he felt the first time he heard that?
He said it was one of the scaredest moments he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
He was awesome. He just kept, he wanted to, let's have a plan. We can do this. Let's keep moving forward, and let's have a plan. So he was in a charge full speed ahead type of moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard also while we're waiting for those test results. He's the one that helped schedule a second opinion with a lung cancer expert in Houston, and he's the one that started doing that. But he just kept saying, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. But we both definitely had our moments of oh gosh, what's going to happen. And anytime I would bring up, what happens if I'm not there, and he just said, I don't want to think about that right now. Let's have a plan to move forward. So he was really great and really supportive.
The thought, and everyone that's had cancer, like one of your first initial thoughts is dying, right? Most of the time, because again, especially for us young adults who get cancer, it's not that there's ever a great time to get cancer, but in your 20s, 30s is not ideal, right? It's very rare. And
Sure.
there's a mindset shift when you have to think about dying in your 20s or 30s or even your 40s that that makes the rest of your life completely different, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were told that you had, such a short, potentially a short amount of time to live, what did that do to you? Like, what were your thoughts with that? Obviously you wanted to plan, you wanted to, keep pushing forward and everything else. But when you just kind of had those moments to yourself where no one was around, or maybe your husband was asleep, where it's just you thinking about that, laying on the pillow at night, what kind of thoughts were going through your head when you were really starting to process that?
I prayed a lot. I just kept thinking, you know, 2 weeks, 9 months, what am I going to do? How am I going to live the rest of this time that I do have here? And I just kept thinking about my kids and my husband, and what can we do to enjoy life to its fullest, make some family memories of the small amount of time that I do have here. There was a moment for me, it was probably a low moment for me, that I was really struggling while we were waiting for those test results. I had the why me phase for a little bit, for sure, of, again, like you said, I just turned 39. We had just moved to a city that, my hometown. I thought that now it's going to be, it's just, everything's going to be better than ever. And then you get this news, and we're thanking God for being able to be here, but at the same time, well, why did this happen? So for me, it was a moment. There was a moment when I was just really upset, and I remember standing in our dining room and looking outside and just really being upset, and praying that God, give me a sign that you're here, because I'm really scared, and I don't know what to do with my kids and my husband and whatnot. And it was at that moment, it's a really strange moment where I just kept saying, please give me a sign that you're here, when I was praying. And our mailman started coming down our hill. We live in a cul-de-sac. And so he's coming down, and I'm just watching. And there was a moment that I thought, is this my sign? And so he drove around our cul-de-sac, and he came out of his truck with this huge box. And he walked up to our front door, and I opened the front door, very curious. And he just said, hey, I've got this big box for you. And it was addressed to me. And I opened up the box, and I'm wiping my tears. And it was a huge box from our home church back in Chicago, of letters and notes of, my first letter or card that I opened up. All it said was, it was the passage from Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid. I am the Lord your God. I will be with you wherever you go. And that was the moment that I feel like there was a sense of peace over me. And that's where I thought, okay, it was, just a moment where I needed to stop worrying, and I needed to just start focusing on our faith and relying on God that he will get us through this. But that was definitely a hard time trying to figure it out. But that was a moment I remember calling my brother right after and opening up every card, and every card was saying, God is with you, don't worry. And I called my brother, and he said, that's awesome. And he goes, notice those winks from God when you can. And it was that moment that I thought, oh my goodness. And from then until now, I feel like my faith has always been strong, but I notice those winks from God more than ever. If it's just little things of, enjoying these special moments with your kids, or seeing your kids, laughing in the rain, when normally I would probably say, like, get out of there. We don't want to get wet, and it's just like, you have a moment where you just notice all the winks from God that he gives you. And that has been pretty amazing to be able to see that.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that God communicates to everyone, and then just in different ways, sometimes in, multiple ways, for sure. And I think, I've had a lot of conversations about, prayer with people, and there's a lot of believers and non-believers that listen to the show here. And when I try to describe the peace of God to people, it's almost indescribable in a way until you've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And, because we've already been told that life is not going to be easy, right? Like, life will have its ups and downs, will have its, terrible moments and just extremely trying times. But we've also been promised as well, too, that God's going to be with us as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really easy to forget that sometimes until those moments come in and just completely shake your life up. Mm-hmm. And cancer is definitely one of those moments that shakes your life upside down, and kind of see, what friends stick, what thoughts stick, what emotions stick. And it really is a hard reset on your life in a lot of ways. you talk about wings from God, and I think those are just so evident as well too. And what I feel like when you start looking, you always find whatever you're looking for, right? If if you're mad at your husband, you can find a million different ways to be mad at him, right? Like his socks are over here, he's late for this, he does this, all those things, right? And I always feel like if you really are every day looking for those winks from God, where that equals gratitude basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking of all the different ways that God's brought you through these situations or let moments happen, the memories, the opportunities, all the things that we get to experience every day. And when you start looking for that, I feel like you just get overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude, because happiness is an emotion that comes and goes, like happy moments, sad moments,
Mm-hmm.
but gratitude always equals a happy feeling lots of times. When you look at your children, or you look at your job, or the way that this drug has really been able to work for you, I'm sure you're really grateful for all those moments, and you're happy when you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like people take advantage of the lack of gratitude so much every day, but we're constantly bombarded with all the negative things from social media sometimes, and the news certainly, and all those things, right? We're always constantly having that battle of negative information coming our way. But it really takes those moments. It doesn't take cancer to completely change your life as far as make you a better person, all those things, but it does give you an opportunity to do a hard reset. And I'm sure if you're like everybody else, you've had moments in your life where you're like, you probably shouldn't have did that, or you wasted time doing all these things. But now I'm sure you live a very intentional life with, because I think it's just a reminder at a young age, hey, my days are definitely numbered, and they may be numbered a little less than what I originally thought they were. I'm going to take advantage of as much as I possibly can, while I'm here. I've talked to a lot of people who've had to tell their children, that they have cancer. And I'm not sure, how old are your children?
They are 10 and 7 now, but they were 4 and 7 when I was diagnosed.
Okay. So maybe your 7-year-old maybe had an idea slightly of what cancer could be or something along those lines, but I'm sure they know now that you've actually went through it. How did you tell your children that mom was sick, and, had that discussion with them?
At first, I didn't want to tell them. I wanted, especially my 4-year-old, and my 7-year-old, she had just started first grade. It was a new school, a new city, new friends, new everything. And now I'm thinking, now I'm going to bring in new cancer, she has enough going on. So I didn't want to tell her or either of my kids at first at all. I just wanted us to be as normal as possible. Let's just be this new family that moved into this city, and we will, not make a big deal about this. And in the meantime, Gary and I are trying to figure out, all these things. And they knew that I was in the hospital, but they didn't really inquire much about it until Isabella, at the time, my 7-year-old, she came home from the bus crying, and she was really upset. And a little girl in her class had said, "I heard your mom has cancer and she's going to die."
Wow.
So that was a really hard time. And that's when Gary and I decided we need to be open and honest with our kids. And everyone goes about this journey differently. So that is the moment that we wanted to tell them. And I want them to know, exactly what's going on a kid level, of course, because I don't want to hear, Gary says all that other stuff is fake news. I want our kids to be able to talk to them. And if they hear things like that, they should be able to tell their friends or almost educate them on what's going on, because that's not fair. So our kids know things like, mommy has lung cancer. It is not hereditary or contagious. It's important for us to wash our hands so we don't get sick. And they know that, I go to the doctor and Gary and I travel every 90 days, and Grammy and Grandpa watch them. And that we pray a lot that God will get us through this and help heal mommy, and how important it is we fundraise as a family. And so that's kind of how we go about it with our kids. And they know way too much about lung cancer that I ever hoped that they would, but they're rock stars at it, and they know quite a bit, but on a kid-friendly level.
So kind of a personal question, when you're praying with your kids, and this is something that, again, it's a tough subject to talk about as far as like with your children, right? Especially at that age. When you guys pray together, what type of prayers are you praying? Like what, obviously, well, I don't want to assume anything. What type of prayers do you guys typically pray together whenever you're having this discussion every single day?
Sure. My now 7-year-old, she prays that after every prayer, at the end of every prayer, please heal mommy. And then Isabella, my 10-year-old, she will say, give us more research. And they know about research and how important it is to continue research. And then they'll come when we come home from doctor's appointments, or right before we go to doctor's appointments. Sometimes we'll stop and pray that mommy has a good doctor's appointment, and for the doctors to look inside mommy's body to make sure that my pills are working. So just little things. We don't go into really specific details, but they know quite a bit, and that's kind of just the small amounts that we pray with them.
Yeah. What do you think that's doing for their faith?
I hope that it strengthens them. I also say, no matter what, God is with us, and they know Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, I am the Lord your God, and we carry that not just for cancer, for, if a little boy or girl is being mean on the playground or something like that, so sometimes we'll just say that verse as a prayer. But I hope that it strengthens their faith, that to keep moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the consistency of it, I think, as well too, is what's really important. In the good times and the bad times. And I think I always felt like, just the research that I've done and all the people that I've spoken with, is your parents really teach you about your relationship with God. And they're having a chance to see you going through this time. And, I know your medicine's doing really well right now and stuff for you. And so they're seeing like both sides, like the worry, the medicine, everything's great. And they probably don't know how severe it was a couple of years ago, or could have been. But over time, I feel like this is something that will just be a foundation in their life, which I think is amazing, because, who knows what's going to happen in their life 20, 30 years from now, where they're going to need, dial back onto this moment right here, these moments and these years with you, to really make a difference in their life and then their family's life and stuff like that as well too. So I feel like that's definitely a generational thing that you guys are doing. And I just want to commend you on doing that. I know it's, it's not something obviously everyone does, but I think the lasting impact on it is just going to be huge for you guys and your family and their family. And it's such a wonderful thing to see parents doing that.
Oh, well, thanks. We mess up a lot as parents, but I think it's really important to Gary and I to continue faith and trying to help them, guide them in that way.
So you do a lot of fundraising and speaking. Why do you feel like it's important for you to share your story with so many people?
Well, for one, when I was diagnosed, I had no idea that I could get lung cancer. I had no idea. So I think it's important to tell everyone, anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. And it's important to share our story, just because not only to gain some awareness of lung cancer, that it is the #1 cancer killer in the United States. I had no idea, so just sharing that information with others, and being an advocate of lung cancer is just important, because I feel like, in hopes that the more people know, then everyone always asks me, do you smoke? Did you smoke? Or was it radon? And the answer is always no, no, and no, and that's when I feel like they're not asking a silly question. That was probably my thoughts before I had lung cancer. That's my time to educate them, to say, I didn't know it either. Anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. It is you don't have to smoke to have lung cancer. So it's kind of our platform to be able to educate people and let them know. And also fundraising, it's so important to continue research. I will eventually gain resistance on my medicine in hopes that another medicine I'll have a good outcome with the next medicine and hope that it works for me. But so it's just so important to continue research and funding for more targeted therapies, and I'm hopeful for a cure as well.
There's a lot of motivation behind your funding because the research is what saved your life.
Mm-hmm.
And with lung cancer being the deadliest cancer you can get, that's a huge motivation, obviously. With the ALK positive, is it a gene or is it a trait or is it
genetic mutation? Yes. Mm-hmm.
So with the ALK positive gene, that's huge that your funding is really going towards that. And I've spoken to several people within the ALK positive community, and the type of money you guys are raising is just dramatic, and it's really helping push research toward that. The medicine that you're taking right now, is it a series of 3 pills that you take? And are you on the 3rd one? Is that how that works? Or
it's 4 pills twice a day, and it's a 2nd generation pill.
Okay.
Well, now it has been FDA approved as a 1st generation pill.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm doing really great on it.
What's the amount of time that you spend on each line of therapy? Is it a couple of years? How's that work?
Everyone is different, and it's really strange, and it's not consistent. I've been on mine, statistically, alectinib it'll be about 30 months, and then they're seeing progression. But I also have, another friend in our lung cancer community that's been on alectinib for 4 years. So it's just not consistent. And then I have friends that have been on it for 6 months and it just didn't work. So there are moments that I feel like I'm a ticking time bomb every time I go get my scans of, let's hope it's still working,
Mm-hmm.
But we just thank God every day that I have on this medicine. And we do know that it's not, that I will eventually gain resistance, and in hopes that I'll get a good response from the next one. But for right now, it's working and I'm winning.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you handle scan anxiety? Since you go every 90 days, that's a pretty frequent update. So how do you handle that every 90-day nail biting, teeth clenching moment where you're just sitting there waiting for your results?
Sure. My husband and I have our ritual. We would, leading up to it here, I try not to think about it, or when I do, I just make sure, you do something different with whatever I'm thinking about, whether I just say, okay, kids, let's go to the park, or just try to get my mind off it, because I can't do anything about it, and that's something you just can't control. But my husband and I, when we go to Houston, I'll get my scan results, and then we go out for Mexican. We have a favorite Mexican restaurant, so we'll go and have some chips and salsa and margaritas and just make it a fun date night. And then the next day I get my results. So I try not to think about it much, and we try to turn it into a fun date night.
A Houston date night every 3 months, right?
That's right.
So what would be your advice to a young adult listening right now, someone maybe in their 30s, never smoked, never been exposed to any radon or anything along those lines, that has lung cancer, or just has cancer, a young adult who has cancer in general?
Sure.
What kind of advice would you give them?
Don't give up hope. I mean, to just keep moving. And the way that research is going right now, they're making some really great strides, and think, where do you want to put your efforts? And some of it just might be just enjoying life and being with your family, which is so important too. And try not to sweat the small stuff, and just don't give up hope, and keep moving forward. Figure out what's important to you and your family. For us, it was kind of a funny way that we started fundraising. We do a summer bucket list every summer, and we write down things like, going to the beach, going hiking, going on the lake or whatnot. But Isabella, our older one, said that she wanted to do a lemonade stand, and she wanted to do a dance party lemonade stand. She was very specific. And then she said, I want, but I want to do it for a cause, and I'm thinking she's going to say, for all the little puppies or an animal shelter, which would have been fine too. But instead, going through this journey, she said, what if we did it for lung cancer? So I was definitely a proud mom that day. And so we ended up emailing friends and family, and we did a lemonade stand. And we had a goal that day of $100. And ends up the news company came out of in our local community, and we made just over $5,000. And it all went towards lung cancer research. And it was such a fun day. And we did it again last year. And last year we actually had sponsors, and we had a bounce house and a face painter, and the local, high school cheerleading team came out, and we made just over $25,000. And that is what our family kind of does. It's not this huge dinner gala that a lot of these fundraisers are, which are awesome. I mean, and that's where you're making, so you're doing great on that. But figure out too, if that's the route you want to go, what's important to your own family, whether it's, for us, it's just, I want to keep it organic, as, my kids did, of just having this little great idea. And this has kind of turned into something really, they took a bad situation and made it into a fun situation. But don't lose hope, and figure out, if you want to do something, what's important to you, what's important to your own family, and how to make it fun, and just look to your faith and keep moving forward.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about alkpositive.org. I've interviewed your friend Gina before. You guys are both amazing. That's why the organization is doing so well. You guys and your team that you have moving forward with. Tell everyone a little bit about the ALK positive movement that you have going on, the summits that you guys just had, and where you guys are going in the future.
Sure. We, when I was diagnosed, someone told me, look on Facebook, try to look at some of these closed groups, because I didn't know anyone who had lung cancer. I didn't know anyone that had lung cancer with a genetic mutation, ALK positive, so I looked up ALK positive lung cancer support group, and this group came up, and at the time it was about 900 members, and I joined it, and it's people all around the world, and everyone kind of supports each other, and most of them are in their 30s and 40s, just like me, with kids, and some of them newly married, and it's just, we really support each other. Gary and I went to a Longevity Hope Summit shortly after I was diagnosed, and we met up with a lot of ALK positive patients that are in this group. And at the time, I was looking around for this ALK meetup for your stereotypical, lung cancer patient. And we saw a group laughing and giggling in the corner. And Gary and I looked, and he's like, I think that might be them. We're in a hotel lobby area. And I said, okay, not thinking, that's not them. And then we went over there, and I said, is this the ALK positive meetup group? And this one guy handed me a glass of wine and said, welcome, and everyone was having such a good time, and no one was talking necessarily about side effects or treatment plans. It was, how are you living your life? How are you enjoying and making those family moments? People were showing pictures of their kids, or one guy showed a picture of he and his wife just went skydiving, and it was just a really refreshing time that we thought, okay, there's other people like us out here, and this group is really, we all support each other. We all fundraise together. We created this group. We partnered up with Longevity, which gives us access to their 501c3. And we all fundraise together. And, for us, it's like doing our lemonade stands, and one other person does a Halloween party, and someone else does, their own fundraiser, a walk or whatever. And we all fundraise for ALK specific lung cancer research. Within 9 months, we raised all of us together $600,000, which
Wow.
gave us 3 research grants for 2 years, and they're up and running and they're doing really well. So it's so important. We are making a difference. We are doing this. This past year, we had an ALK Summit. I was the ALK Summit chair, and it was a great conference. And we had researchers and doctors there. They spoke, and so we were able to. I wanted everyone leaving with more information, and feeling hopeful about where our future is going, which they were with our researchers, and the researchers were telling us where they're going and what kind of projects are going on right now. But I also wanted people to be together and and be face to face, and see that support up front. And it was a really special weekend. It was a great time. So it was just a great time that I hope people were they were filled with joy and hope and ready to fundraise.
Yeah. It was amazing. I had a chance to go to the very last day. We just got back in
Yeah.
town the day before and went, and just, in the few hours that we were there on Sunday, typically the last day of a conference, everybody's kind of like worn down a little bit because you sat and listened and participated in so much. But there was a tremendous amount of energy in the room that you guys still had, which says a lot about a conference. And the type of people that were speaking, and the immediately walking in, and you get an overwhelming sense of family in your
Mhm.
group. And I've been to several different things like this with different types of cancer. And you guys immediately made everyone feel super welcome. It was very well organized. Aesthetically, it looked great. Everything about it was wonderful. And I know was that your first summit or your second, or?
It was our second one. We had our first one last year in Louisville. Hmm.
So just being your second summit, I mean, the second one's always better, right? Because you've kind of made all your mistakes on the first one and stuff, but you guys did an amazing job. So I was really impressed. And we talked about that the whole way home, of how you guys had everything put together, and it flowed so easily. And that's not an easy thing to do when you get that many people in a room together. So, but awesome job on that. I love your advice that you have for people as far as not giving up, enjoying life, not sweating the small stuff, doing what's important to you. And then your act of fundraising. Would it be safe to say that every dollar you raise, or every amount of money that you make fundraising, do you ever feel like those dollars specifically could go to a medication or a procedure that could help you specifically? Is that kind of your motivation, a little bit of motivation behind everything?
Yes, absolutely. I think that all of us fundraising and working hard for ALK specific research, I think every time when we do raise this money, you think, I'm one step closer to being able, for me, I'm one step closer to being able to see my kids grow up a little bit more, or I want to be able to be there for those milestones, and not necessarily the graduations and the weddings. I mean, that of course is so super important, but it's also like, I have moments every now and then where I'm at my daughter's softball games, and you see her hit hit the ball and be able to go to second base. And those are the moments, to me, I almost get teary eyed, because I'm like, I'm here to visit, to see this. And research, with every money and every dollar we make, it's one step closer to being able to see the next softball game, or see
Yeah,
them go to middle school, or get on the bus. And that's my motivation.
I love that. Now, you have a tremendous amount of energy. Have you always been a high energy person? Where does all your energy come from?
Yeah, I think that I've always been a busy wife and mom, and you just try not to sweat the small stuff, and you got to enjoy life as much as you can, and make some family memories. I don't want cancer to define me, but it is a part of me, and it's important to fundraise and move forward, but also make those family memories. It's just so important to us, and keep moving on.
Absolutely. One of the last questions I ask a lot of people is, what is the best thing that cancer has done for your life? Which is a very interesting question lots of times, because you'd hope to never answer that question in your, you won't want that question on your life resume, but what's the best thing cancer's done for your life?
Um, I would probably have to refer back to noticing the winks from God. You know, I've always been strong in my faith, but I think I don't wish this. I don't wish cancer on anyone. It definitely makes you appreciate life more. It makes you, um, enjoy more family memories and the little things that weren't that aren't necessarily a big deal now that it could have been, back
Mhm.
before being diagnosed. But I think more so, I notice the winks from God that he gives me every single day. And I'm so appreciative that and grateful for it. And I would say probably that, because I'm definitely noticing those more than I ever have.
I love that. Well, I want to take a second to acknowledge you for, you know, everything that you are as a person. Just meeting you for the first time, again, your energy was the first thing I noticed about you. How driven you were to make that event successful, to share your story, to share other people's stories, to drive fundraising. Like, you were just all in. And I love being around people who are just all in on what they're trying to do. And that's one of the things I noticed about you immediately, which I think draws a lot of respect from a lot of people in the room, which is what you definitely want to have whenever you're putting on an event like this. So I think you did an amazing job. Also, too, for the type of parent that you are, there's a lot of things that you said throughout our interview today that I think are so important and so foundational, with just the way you guys are raising your children, from everything from your faith to how you look at just life in general. Just the mindset of, not sweating the small stuff, really looking for the good moments in life, just really being present, I think, as well too. Like, at a softball game, softball games, you could, they happen a lot. They're just a small, speck in life, but you're recognizing how important that is. And there's no way that your children aren't seeing how you appreciate every moment of life the way you're doing. So you're setting a wonderful example for them, even at such a young age where they're so impressionable. And they're seeing all of that right now for you guys. And I'm sure you've got sounds like you got a great partner going through life with you as well too.
Yes.
And just, you're the one. I've said before, people, it's a lot easier to be the person laying in the bed than the person standing by the bed lots of times.
Hmm.
And just, it's easier sometimes to be the person that's sick versus the person who's worried about the person being sick or having to take care of the person being sick, and on all the other things that go on. But it sounds like you guys have a great relationship. Like, he's turning these every 90-day trips into dates for you guys where you're having a chance to enjoy that. So it sounds like he knows what's important to you to take your mind off of that, which is so important. It's so important to have people in life that that are in the trenches with you and then can acknowledge you and can go through those moments. So I think that's absolutely amazing. And the other thing is, your fundraising ability, I think, is amazing. People buy into you, into what you're doing, and see all the heart and love you have behind it. And I know you're doing it for you're doing it for your specific, mutation and type of cancer and stuff like that as well. But your money is potentially helping so many other people as well. Like, if they find a new drug, you're not the only person that's going to benefit from that. There's going to be thousands of people that will benefit from this. And so you're doing, specific type of work to impact so many other people. So it's a very, obviously you want something out of it because you want to be, continue on and everything else as well too. But it's a very selfless act what you're doing as far as like fundraising and putting all the effort into that, which I think is great that your children first had the idea of the lemonade stand, right? And look where that's taken off now. And, look at all the money you guys have raised, partnering with, longevity and all those things like that. Like, look what all has happened in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of organizations that don't even know where to start. And you guys are, a couple of years into this, and look where you're at and look what you're doing. And So it's such an amazing movement that you guys have. And everybody that I've spoken to from the ALK positive community, you guys all kind of mirror each other in that. And it's just, you're just an amazing person to be around. So thank you for sharing, this hour of your day with all the people listening to the podcast. I think your story is going to resonate, and people are going to really get all those things I just spoke about you, and really take that into heart. And I absolutely love what you're doing, and, continuing to do everything you're doing is just such a powerful and amazing thing. So thanks for being a guest on the show. If our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you? I know we talked about your social media page and stuff. Would that be the best way for them to find out, if they had questions about ALK positive or what?
Sure. We have our alkpositive.org. Also, probably my Facebook page. I think there's some people that kind of follow our journey on my Facebook page, Amanda Nerstad.
Perfect. Well, I'll drop a link to that for everyone listening so they can connect with you guys, specifically Facebook. And I'll drop a link to the alkpositive.org as well, too.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say, too, Truett, is I do feel that it takes a village, and with our doctors communicating and researchers working hard, our ALK positive group working hard together to fundraise, and all of us telling our story, including you telling my story and everyone else's story. You're creating awareness, and it really is commendable of what you're doing as well. But we all have one goal, and that's a cure for sure. And so thanks for having me on, and thanks for telling my story.
Awesome. Well, I enjoy speaking with you. I'm sure everyone's going to be connecting with you soon. But thank you again, Amanda, for being a guest on the show, and we will keep everyone posted on your journey, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
We appreciate you spending time with us on today's episode and encourage you to continue the conversation to help you keep pushing forward. For more resources based on today's episode, as well as ways to recommend a guest and connect to Truett personally, head over to 1%podcast.com. Be sure to join us next time for more stories of inspiration right here with Truett Taylor on the 1% Podcast.